Call the Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. At this time, would entertain any public comments. Are there any public comments? Your Honor.
Mr. Chairperson, thank you for opening us up for public comments. I wanted to speak in favor of a couple of items on your agenda this morning. Item 9 has to do with the adoption of a contract with Whitebox to convert old files into our new case management system, and I'm in support of that. And more particularly, item 11 on your agenda deals with the proposal to increase the total cost for the Family Justice Center project. We have been working on this for, you might say, 15 years. It was part of a long-range plan way back in 2006. In 2017, the county and the 20th Circuit and Ottawa County Probate Courts entered into a letter of intent to consolidate the family division on this site here in Fillmore. And the county provided a consultant, and we spent 2 years putting together plans for what would be necessary to incorporate into that courthouse. And we came up with a plan that would create a courthouse that would service Ottawa County's needs for the next 20 to 30 years. Well, that was a 66,000 square foot building. And when the county hired the construction team headed by Granger and the initial quotes came back, the county decided that was too big a building. We're not going to build for 20 or 30 years from now. And the building size has now been cut down to 55,000 square feet. We have had several meetings with the architect and the construction team in the county over the last several months. We've made cuts here and there, and we think that all the cuts have been made which don't compromise the functionality and the security within that building. Unfortunately, inflation has affected construction prices, and none of us are responsible for any of that, but we still have to deal with it. And so what was a $30 million project is now projected to be a $32 million project. But the project is a needed one. We have a probate court and family division courthouse just across the parking lot here, which is inadequate for our needs, doesn't meet today's security standards. And so there is a need for a new courthouse. We would like to consolidate the family division into a single building. As it's currently planned, not all the family division will fit into the courthouse as currently designed. And so we will, in order to deal with that, propose that our friend of the court have staffed offices in each of our county courthouses. We'll be keeping a small contingent in the Grand Haven courthouse so that all of our current employees will have a place to sit, and we can better provide for the needs of the public through our courts and through our juvenile division and our family division. So I want to encourage you to support item 11 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, move on to the consent items. Need a motion to approve the agenda and the approval of our last minute. So move. Or any additions, changes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action items. Need a motion for the statement of review. So move.
Support.
Changes, additions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Get a resolution to approve the project plan and issue bonds for the farmstead. Becky?
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again. I will tell you a little about the project, but I want to lead with pointing out a minor boo-boo on your action request. It says the bond amount is $8 million. I got a little overzealous with my backspace key when I decided to type out million. It should be $80 million is the request you have before you. It is correct in the resolution. It is correct in the project plan and all the other documentation. I just want to point that out, that is an error. So if you just read through that part, know that it's an $80 million request. So to summarize that request, As I mentioned, when we saw you a little while ago doing the inducement resolution for this project, these bonds go through the Economic Development Corporation. Bonds are one of many different things economic development corporations can do. This is the third such project that has been requested of Ottawa County. This project is going to support the Rest Haven project to build the farmstead in the city of Holland. I'll give you just a few details. Most of you have heard this all before, and then you're free to ask questions. Once again, Seth is here from Rest Haven to also answer any questions you might have. So the request is for $80 million to build a 128 unit senior living facility with varying levels of care in the city of Holland. The Rest Haven has several other facilities here in the area. They employ roughly 450 people currently. This will have the effect of creating new jobs, which is both a plus and a minus these days. They will have a lot of capital investment going into this project and are seeking these bonds to support it. There are no costs to the county for this project. Bond counsel is making sure that all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and that will be paid for by Rest Haven. The county will receive an issuance bond of 1/4% of the face value of the bonds. So that will come back to the county to be used for economic development purposes. So there's no cost to the county. It does not affect our credit, and we are not liable for the debt that it creates. So at this point, if you'd like to hear more, I can carry on, or I can just entertain any questions you might have. I should point out the step we are in the process. What you have before you is the project plan. It is required by statute. Statute requires certain things to be met. This project plan lays out all of those things that are required by statute. The EDC approved that a couple of weeks ago and forwarded it to you. Tomorrow, the city of Holland will also see the project plan, and contingent upon their approval, this will go on to the full board on April 12. So questions at this time?
Becky, would you do me a favor? Will you take that microphone and push it back towards us? Because there's a, just push it. No, push the top.
Oh,
Bend it back.
is that good? Is that better?
Further back. Because we're
How
getting
about now?
a hum. Yeah, that's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Becky? And Becky, on earlier request, was it not 75 million?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
They have the same problem that we have with everyone else.
Exactly, yes. So bond counsel contacted us, well, they sent the project plan and the data to me, and I reviewed it. And so I contacted bond counsel and said, wait a minute, the inducement resolution was for 75 million. And he said, I'm sorry, am I doing something wrong again?
Yeah, I don't think that's helped. I think it's gotta go way back.
Okay. Yeah, so I reached out to him and I said, are we 80 or are we 75? And he said, construction costs and in the timeline for the project, we really need to ask for 80 to make sure that we're covered. So I did visit with Corporation Counsel just to make sure that there wouldn't be an issue having passed an inducement resolution that said 75 million and now passing a project plan and related resolution for 80 million. Corporation Counsel advised me that that was totally fine. Just had a quick discussion with Rest Haven and with bond counsel to make sure that they didn't anticipate any other changes happening in the interim. They assured us that we wouldn't. So 80 million is in fact our number. So thank you for pointing that out. That's a good question.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else for Becky? Anything for Seth at Rest Haven? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Get a resolution to set a public hearing date for the EDC bond project.
So move.
Support.
Questions, comments? So Becky, the hearing date will just be the first meeting in October or in April, correct?
The hearing, yes, we'll set the hearing at the next board meeting. Yep, and the hearing will occur directly before you entertain the resolution.
Okay.
Yep, correct.
Good, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Need a motion for the community mental health personnel request.
So moved.
Support. Good morning.
Morning. Michelle Vanderskamp, the program supervisor for MI Adult Services at CMH. We are requesting to bump up our current person in that position to full-time so she can better handle the grants that we are getting for substance use disorder. We have a ton of smaller grants that we are getting, and we're getting some more in a couple of months. So these start new projects and we need more staff hours in order to get those projects off the ground.
Any questions? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Need a motion for the Parks and Recreation personnel request.
So moved.
Second.
Good morning.
Everyone. I am here reporting from the Nature Center, Jessica Van Hoven. We are working on expanding our curriculum-based nature programs. We have some grant funding through the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation to roll out a pilot program in partnership with school districts in Northwest Ottawa County. So Spring Lake, Grand Haven, Coopersville, and Allendale. We will be working by the end of school year 2023 to have every fourth grader in those districts go through an Ottawa County Parks Nature Program at a park close to them. We're really excited about that. After that works, we'll move on to every fourth grader in Ottawa County, but I'm not gonna get ahead of myself here. Part two of that grant is also to help us expand our virtual programming. We found during COVID, there was a very large appetite for folks who were homebound or, just not able to get out as often as they would like to participate in programs virtually. Additionally, it will help us supplement our curriculum-based programs because we can work with teachers very tight schedule to get into the classroom via video before and after their visit. So in order to just help us efficiently reach all of these students, we're asking for a couple of people. One that would be mainly responsible for curriculum coordination. That's the program lead, outdoor educator, and then also someone who would be a project support specialist working on video and graphics. Questions for
Any
me?
questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Need a motion for the contract to provide assessing services for the Hudsonville City. So move.
Or
Brian or Michael?
We have 3 contracts that are coming up for renewal this year. And didn't lose any hearing aids that way. For the first time, we've been doing this long enough. For the first time for all 3 contracts, for 2 of them, Grand Haven and Crockery, all the records are ours. We've been doing for a while. We were able to freeze the last year of the last contract and make it the same as the first year of the next contract, then just go up by the rate of inflation. Hudsonville, this is only our second contract. Usually with the second contract, we have an adjustment up a ways because we underestimated. This time, we could just go up by the rate of inflation for the next contract. And we do keep track of all the income and expenses to make sure overall that division is well balanced. It's a difficult challenge because assessing could be more one year or less the next year. But it's worked well, right?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. The only thing I was going to point out is one of these contracts begins April 1st. That's the Hudsonville one. The other 2 contracts actually don't come up for renewal until July. But since we had all of the numbers and all of the, I might say we had the motion going already, we just had all 3 of them approved. So 2 of them won't take effect until this summer.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can we vote on all 3 at the same time?
I think we'll have to have a motion to combine all 3 of them. If you want to amend,
I'll make that motion to combine all 3.
we'll amend the motion to handle all 3 of those contracts with one vote. Brian, I do have one quick question for you on a side note.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Holland Township at all? I know they're in dire straits with Howard retired. Now he's
Correct.
back to work again because they're class 4 left.
Correct.
And
Yes, I have been in communication with them right from the start. As soon as their replacement for Howard stepped down, I think that was right around the 1st of the year, they reached out to me and I've been working with the township to give whatever guidance that I can. They had interviewed a candidate to replace Howard, but that did not work out. And then they're interviewing another one, and I don't know the status of that, where that is at right now, but they are actively pursuing replacing Howard's position.
I just
Yep.
thought, with these contracts, it might be a good time to talk to them, but
Yeah.
I think they're kind of set in having their own.
We kind of, take the position, we're more than happy to provide a proposal, provide the service, and if they want it, great, and if they want to do their own thing, that's fine too. So we don't aggressively say, come to us, but we do, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, when Zealand Township approached us, we gave a proposal, they decided to hire someone else, which is fine. And because our goal is to really not to profit on this, but not to lose money either.
And we don't, you might say, actively pursue these. We wait for them to come to us because we don't want to be perceived by the other assessors that we have to work with on a daily basis, that we're out to try and get their job. So if they come to us, we'll respond, but we don't actively pursue. So,
All right, good. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
you bet.
All in favor of the three contracts, signal by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Those motions pass. Get a motion for the data conversion from legacy case management system.
So moved.
Supported. John,
I
or
know Susan's here, but in short, this is a proposal to enter into an agreement with White Box Technologies to convert our historical data from our existing AS400 system to the new JIS case management system.
Yes, that's very succinctly put. Susan Franklin, the Circuit Court Administrator. We are trying to convert to a new case management system, as our current case management system began in the 90s. And unfortunately, we can no longer find programmers who are able to speak its language to continue its longevity. So it's it's probably overly dramatic to say it's a ticking time bomb, but it can't last much longer. So we'd like to move to the JIS system, but we still will need to access our historical data. So JIS has recommended White Box Technologies. They've worked with them before and been able to do these type of data conversions. So that's what we're hoping to do.
okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Approval for the fiscal year 21 filing of qualifying statements.
So move.
It's just a housekeeping issue.
We file annually, which allows us to bond.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Need a motion for the Family Justice Center budget amendment.
So move. Support.
Oh, you wanted a discussion on this? Okay. So,
We know what the deal is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cost of everything is going up.
well, and I thought the judge summed it up very well in terms of, we have met with our architect and contractor and with all of the stakeholders on this. We've had numerous meetings to really nail down the budget for design, construction, and soft costs, furnitures, fixtures, equipment, legal, bond costs, et cetera. And we've gone through several rounds, as the judge mentioned, of cutting costs and removing things from this project. And we're really, and this is why we wanted to have a discussion and a proposal here. We're at the point that if we really make any further cuts to this project, it'll affect the functionality of the building, the aesthetics of the building. So for example, with FOC, we have an individual office set up. We could save money going to an open office setup, but that poses issues with confidentiality issues. We could leave unfinished the break room and training room. Well, now you're in a building with, studs or maybe drywall that's not finished, and that doesn't really help either. So when we looked at this, the latest budget is just over $31.7 million. And even just yesterday for some cabling work, the price is going up $10,000, so that's why when you looked at the budget, it says 31.7. We're requesting to amend the budget up to 32 million to cover any, other escalation costs that we're not aware of at this point. And that budget, again, includes design, construction, furniture, basically an out the door price, contingencies as well. In terms of the extra $2 million increase, we're not proposing to borrow more money. So we would still issue bonds at $30 million. The extra $2 million would come right now from our general fund. And so you'll see later on in the agenda here, we have a policy to keep up to 25% general fund balance. As of the end of the last fiscal year, we have about $2.9 million in excess of that 25% limit. So normally what we've done in the past is any amount above that we've taken and usually put it into one-time projects like capital improvement projects. So of that 2.9 million excess funds that's above our 25% cap, we would propose 2 million would go towards this project to bring the budget up to 32 million. And as you'll see later on, the other 900,000 would then go into our capital projects fund for that. We are identifying certain risk reduction security type features in the building that we will approach the insurance authority to see if they will make a payment. And we estimate that would be about $1.5 million. And so that request will come, I think, in May, based on meeting schedule. So if they do approve that request, then that would reduce that general fund contribution from 2 million down to 500,000. But I can't guarantee you that right now. So that's why, as our fallback, we're requesting the extra 2 million come from our general fund excess fund balance. So we would not be borrowing any more. We're not proposing to borrow any more money at this point.
So basically, we're going to issue bonds for 30 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
And John, I'm very supportive of this, and I'm going to vote this thing through all the way through. So don't interpret this question wrongly. I thought initially when we started working with Granger that we chose this company because they gave us a price of X amount of dollars. And if it came in more, they were going to absorb it. And if it came in less, that they would get a little bit of a savings.
Yeah, yes and no. We are doing the integrated project delivery. So what we're doing is setting that target price now. I mean, so they don't give that target price at the very beginning because they haven't done the validation. They haven't done the real design planning. What we're saying here is our target price will be in the 27 million range for the design construction. And they are saying that's what it will be. And it's not 27 million exactly, but just use that figure. So if the costs come in above 27 million, for every dollar it goes over, that comes out of their profit. And for every dollar it comes under, we share in the savings with them.
So going forward, we talk about
Right.
what's going on worldwide and how much of our steel and aluminum now comes from Russia. And so going forward, 3, 4, 6 months from now, there's a $5 million adjustment. It's too bad, so sad.
Yeah, and we have a couple things. We have contingency money in there to pay for any unforeseen events that may happen, which we think will be pretty limited because it's a new site. And if for some reason we wanted, and I don't foresee this happening because of the budget, if we wanted to add scope to the project, so we wanted to add all windows in one particular area, we would have to pay that out of our contingency because that wasn't part of the original scope. And then there's a little clause for escalation in terms of material prices. But beyond that, if we go above that target price, then it comes out of their profit dollar for dollar. But they just can't, we're setting that target price essentially right now. They couldn't do it at the beginning because, they have to design the project to a certain extent that they are comfortable with that target price.
So we've had now an architect who's designed the building and everybody has a chance to see What's the building gonna be made of?
Yep, and we had all of our stakeholders, and you see some of them here. So the courts, the sheriff's office, FOC, facilities, IT. And so when we had these meetings, cost-cutting meetings, we had those meetings with those stakeholders to make sure these were cuts that we could do, but not affect the functionality of the building.
And this does not allow them at all to, 6 months from now, when our cost of steel or aluminum go crazy, they can't come back and say, make suggestions of cutting things out of the building in order to save money?
Yeah, part of the budget, correct. And part of the budget of that 32 million includes an escalation clause to account for some of that material cost escalation if it does occur. But beyond that, then that's on them.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question. So the 27 million that has been agreed to, or this is the 32 million? We don't have a price yet.
Yeah, the 32 million is the overall price of the project.
Right.
So that's design, construction, furniture, fixtures, equipment, our bonding costs, our legal costs, any other miscellaneous testing. So when we do soil boring tests, basically everything. The 27 or $28 million target cost represents really the design and construction costs without those other furniture fixture costs. And that's what they would agree. We're holding to that price.
So when you say they would agree or they have agreed?
They will agree. Yeah, they have agreed to this because this is the budget they presented to us. That is in your packet, that 31.7 million.
Okay.
So they're agreeing to build the building for that price,
For which price?
$27 million.
But the budget is 32.
But some of those prices are not there. Like we have to pay a bond counsel to issue bonds.
Right.
We have to pay a financial
So
advisor.
our cost is 32, their cost is 27.
Correct.
But there's also stipulations that if prices, material prices increase, that 27 will increase.
No, there is a contingency that's built in for that.
Yeah, so that 32 million has, it's almost a $600,000 escalation clause, for example, for escalation in material costs. And that's included in that 27.9, I think it's 27.
So when you say it's included that, so if prices go up by 600,
it comes out of that escalation. And if they don't go up, then we should have less than the 27 million. And I'm rounding with this 27 million.
but what if prices go up by 2 or 3 million, then
They're committed.
They're committed.
They're committed. We've spent a lot of money on this IPD process. Hopefully, the benefits of this are now going to be realized because they have a detailed work plan that has their actual projected hourly labor costs, material costs, all built into it. And that's been validated by our accountants that have said that's a reasonable budget. And so they're now locked into that. If they eat all their profit up, they still have to build it.
but now material prices dropped and they still get the 27 million.
If they deliver that building under budget from here on in, they'll first get their profit, and that's been defined in the contract. If they get below that, this is where the incentive of IPD is, then we'll share in those savings at various percentages depending on how much lower they get. So their incentives are not to increase the cost of the project like in a normal construction project through change orders. Their incentives will be to bring it below budget.
But wouldn't there incentive then to place the highest strike price possible because there's no incentive for them? I mean, the incentives are all, against them. If I understand that right?
Yeah,
Put
that's why
it,
we
if they
heard.
put it super high, we would say it's out of our budget. We can't do that.
No, I think Doug's point is correct in the sense that there's a tension here. They want to make sure they can deliver it. in that price. And our accounting firm validated their work plan, looked at it, said, that's a reasonable material cost today.
Right.
That's a reasonable budget of hours times your actual labor costs
Right.
to get to that amount. And so, you know, we have had this project plan validated for its reasonableness.
And just to speak to on the shared savings that Doug talked about. So obviously, if they go over the cost, then for every dollar they go over, their profit goes down by it.
No, I understand that. But
If it comes in below, I
Right.
think it's the first 350,000 of savings, I believe we are splitting it 50-50 with
Okay.
them. If it gets beyond that $350,000 in savings, then they get about 65% of the savings and we get 35%
Right.
as a further inducement to.
Right. No, I get the inducement. I just, that seems like the structure leads itself to placing the absolute highest, agreement price possible, because if you get variabilities in labor and especially variabilities in supply, why would you agree to anything that's not in the absolute upper edge of reasonableness, right? And
We want the project to continue at this stage.
right. But they also wouldn't want to lose money. I mean, no one can predict a war in Ukraine. No one can predict, what's going to happen with coronavirus. So you can say these material prices are vetted, but no one can vet the future, right? So we don't
Therein
know.
lies the tension, because if it went, let's just say 35 million, just to pick a number,
Right.
then we would say we can't do it. Thanks for all your work. See you later.
The beauty of this will be that we will know to the dollar what this building costs. We will know what it actually costs them. We will know what profit they make or do not make. And if they've estimated higher and our auditors haven't caught it
Mhm.
at this point, hopefully they'll make their profit and we will realize less than $27 million.
Okay.
Because we will have 50% of that savings. So to some extent, if they have it overestimated, we will share in that savings in the project.
But if they've overestimated, the auditors certainly would have caught that.
We would hope, because we
Yeah,
know,
I
we
mean,
know
auditors
exactly.
are auditors. They're gonna,
Yeah, and we're only gonna be paying now on actual time sheets at actual rates as the project unfolds.
Well, and my understanding too is the way we've got it, this is what the cost is. Where traditionally we put it out for bids and 5 different contractors bid it, and one goes, yeah, I could build it for 20 million. And then finds out that he screwed up. And now every time you have a change order, you're paying 10 times the cost for the change order, because that's where all the contractors make their money, is on the change orders. So this eliminates that. Gives us, we know what the cost is going to be. We don't have, well, we hope it's this, but that you don't have to come back to us 2 years from now when it's done and go, oh yeah, it cost us 40 million to build instead of 32.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully we are partners on this. That's the game. That's the whole structure, is to try to make us on one team, to try to bring it in under budget.
I know we have members of the building authority here. Do you guys have anything to add, or?
I guess the biggest thing to say is that there is no question that the county and Doug and John and the courts and staff have done their due diligence in this whole process of getting the project to where it is. I think some other people are still trying to figure out the IPD process and actually what kind of benefit, that's going to hold for the county down the road. I think we'll all see that. I think we're all used to working in a different construction environment. And so it's different now. You know, and I know John is dealing with a vision that Al had that, you know, thought that this IPD process was the wave of the future. You know, I think we're on the early end of the future, and instead of seeing how a lot of other folks have done it. So especially from the government sector side of things. So again, I think if you wanted a $25 million project, you could get a $25 million project and it would be just that. I think right now, I think the goal is to get a project that, you know, you're not remodeling or adding on to a year or two down the road. I think that's one of the things we've always looked at from the county, is building something for the future. So I suspect that this project's going to be, you know, that type of project. So, you know, I think the building authority is learning in the process, just like the county staff is. And we just have to figure out how to get through the whole system of it. So that's about it.
Thanks, Gary. Any other questions? Just one quick question. If we approve it, board approves it, how fast is a shovel going to get turned?
Pretty quickly. I know Blake's here, but I know they want to start putting a shovel in the ground pretty quickly because they would really like to get the building closed up before next winter so we can avoid winter construction costs. But I think as fast as we could get the bonds issued is as fast as they would want to put a shovel in the ground.
Good. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes. Get a motion for the allocation of the 2021 unassigned fund balance.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Karen, anything?
So as John mentioned, this is the formalization of reassigning that fund balance. So as John mentioned, our fund balance exceeds our maximum required per our policy. And we're recommending the 2 million to the family courthouse and then the 900,000 to other capital improvement projects.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Passes. Get a motion for contract of lease and ground lease.
So move.
Support.
So these are part of the lease agreements where the county is leasing the ground and ultimately the building to the building authority, which will issue is a 25-year term lease. So the building authority will be issuing the bonds that the county will be paying. And when those bonds are paid off, the lease ends and ownership, if you will, reverts back to the county.
Can we do this procedure-wide, John?
Because the building authority is funding this project. So this is what our bond council has required us to do in order for the building.
The building is the security for the bonds.
Okay.
So the issuer of the bonds, the building authority, has to own the building to pledge it towards the bonds.
So this happened with all the county buildings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It always happens.
Yeah, it's, we don't even want to think about what would happen in the default. But that's the security that the bondholders have, is they would have ownership of the building and have to deal with us at that point.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes. In a motion for the Grand Haven Courthouse boiler stack replacement project.
So move.
Support.
So this boiler stack and Blake is smarter than I, but it essentially vents gases to the outside at the Grand Haven Courthouse, has been deteriorating and leaking. And so we've gone out for bids, received 2 bids. And we're recommending that the board approve the low bid from Mall City Mechanical for about $161,000. Part of this will also be replacing some leaking valves and installing a security door in the hallway on the third floor of the courthouse as well.
John, is this from a design defect when the building was built or
Late, dear.
without pointing fingers at anybody?
I wasn't here, so I don't even know who to point them at, but the original boiler stack that was installed is of a metal type. So the gases that are going out are corrosive, and they're rusting the pipe and causing it to rot. It's not leaking those gases yet, but an assessment of the pipe said that that's not far off, so have bids to replace it with the correct pipe.
So theoretically, IPD, they would have consulted the boiler maker and the boiler maker would have told the architect, you got the wrong metal. And you're gonna have to spend $161,000 later on if you don't change it. So we'll have to see if this whole process works, but it is kind of designed to ferret that out before you get to construction and now have the wrong metal in there.
There is a similarity between the Grand Haven courthouse and the proposed new build. As John said, we value engineered out everything we can out of the new building. Grand Haven courthouse was heavily value engineered as well, which is why we're cutting bricks out the outsides and patching and damming on flashing, because the metal flashing was value engineered out of the construction of that project. So when it rains and it's a driving rain, and your building's under negative pressure, you're sucking water through it and it just runs in the windows. Susan can attest to exactly how much water comes in those and dams that aren't working. So it's, you try to not value engineer everything out. So that's actually a great project as a lesson to what we're trying to not do.
We kept the flashing in the new building.
In other words, we learned by our mistakes.
Would that be a case for insurance authority or not?
Our insurance wouldn't cover it. So it's not a market insurable event. Obviously, we have a more liberal memorandum of understanding. And we do projects out of the insurance authority because we have that. It's
Yeah,
up to you whether you really want to go.
well, and we try to be careful with the insurance authority in terms of what we have it pay for. So the insurance authority is going to be paying a pretty major project to replace the or reclad building B down on James Street, because we've got significant water structural issues there where there's some pretty significant structural damage there.
Correct, yeah.
And so, so that's going to be probably a $1.7 million project alone. And so, we look at all these projects. This one we funded through the capital projects fund. We maybe you can make a case for have it go under the insurance authority, but we allocated under that, and and we have the money in the budget to do that.
Right, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Need a motion for the 2022 budget adjustment.
So moved.
Ordered. Karen, anything?
Sure. So there are a lot of grant items in the budget adjustments. There is the $1.6 million grant from the insurance authority to the county to fund that CMH Building B reclad project. In addition, at the very bottom, there is the budget adjustment for the wage study, the amendment that the board the loyalty payment and the 2% increase. We rolled that all into one. If you look at the general fund, which is the first three lines, the difference between those dollars is funded with the savings from the lost revenue from ARPA. So I think we had talked about that, but that's the final number. The other changes are funded with other sources of revenue, vacancy savings. And so what you're seeing is that net of the 394 being funded with the savings from the lost revenue for ARPA.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
All opposed, same sign, motion passes. Discussion items, treasurer's report. I know Amanda's not here today because she had a little incident yesterday.
Yes. Cheryl Clark, the Chief Deputy Treasurer. So I am here to answer any questions you may have over or on the report that she had turned in. She also wanted me to mention, I handed out a one-pager to everybody. The US unemployment rate is at 3.8%. Also, she wanted to mention that the inflation rate, excuse me, has reached 7.9% in February of 2022, and it's expected to get to 8.5% by the end of the quarter. And we are also hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, that the Federal Reserve, when they meet this week, either the 16th or the 17th, that they will raise interest rates to 0.25 basis points.
But there's talk about doing 0.5, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Keep our fingers crossed on that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. All in favor, say aye.